If you're thinking about buying a condo down here in the Florida Keys, you're going to want to stick around because there's some information that you're going to need to know. Alright, welcome back. If you're thinking about buying a condo, today we're talking about some information that is important that you need to know. So just recently, the Florida Association of Realtors decided to change our contracts, and they added two things, two reports to the condo rider that buyers are now entitled to. So we're going to talk about those things and how it affects you and why you need to know. All right, to give you some background, the reason that these changes are happening come back from when the collapse of the Surfside condo in Miami happened. So when that happened, the Senate passed a bill called Senate 4D, and that passed back in May of 2022. And basically that enhanced safety measures and kind of reduced the risk associated with condominiums. And so those laws have been in effect, but then just recently, we decided, the Florida Realtors Association decided, hey, we need to change the contracts. So there are two reports that buyers are entitled to. And the first one is the milestone structural inspection report. And this is basically aimed at enhancing safety measures again. And this inspection report is for buildings that are 3 stories or higher. So if you're 2 stories, they don't need to have this report. But we do here in the Florida Keys have a bunch of 3-story condos. Actually, almost all of them are 3 stories. I think only like a couple are 2. So those condos are going to have this milestone structure inspection report done. So the timeline for completing the initial milestone inspection, this is how it goes. So when the building's 30 years of age, then they have to do it every 10 years. Or it's 25 years of age and every 10 years if it's located within 3 miles of a coastline. So basically that's going to be a lot of our properties because, we're on an island. We have coastline everywhere. The big thing that's happening though is that if the milestone inspection is required and the building's certificate of occupancy was issued before July 1992, then this milestone report has to be completed by December 31st, 2024. So that's just like right around the corner. So these condos are going to have to be starting to work on this, and the condos are responsible for getting these done and all of the costs associated with the inspection reports. All right, so there's 2 phases for the milestone structural inspection report. Phase 1 is kind of like a visual assessment, and they want to, evaluate the building's structural conditions. And that has to be done within 180 days of getting that written notice from the local enforcement agency. Phase 2, hopefully nobody gets there, that only happens when there's like significant structural decay found during phase 1. So hopefully none of our condos here in the Keys are ever going to get to phase 2. But if they do, you're going to know about it because as a buyer, you're entitled now to this report. So I mentioned earlier, once these phase 1 and phase 2 reports are done, the inspector has to give them to the building official and to the HOA, and the HOA needs to distribute that to everybody, all the owners within that condo complex. Again, I said that the HOAs are responsible for the costs associated with getting these reports, and they're held accountable for making sure that these reports happen. And people on the board are also held accountable. So now board members, I don't know if you want to still be a board member because you're going to have to be accountable for getting this done, and you can be held liable for not having your reports in place. So I don't know how many people are going to start, lining up still to be a board member or not. So the milestone inspection report, this document, the buyer will be entitled to receive before the sale of the property. And I just put over here on my screen, that's the new language that's going to be added into the contract, but basically says that the buyer has entered into contract, they're entitled to this report before the sale of the property. And the sellers have to make sure that they give this to the buyer. All right, so the second document is called the Structural Integrity Reserve Fund. Basically, this is the study of reserves required for future major repairs, basically in the common areas. And then again, this is done by an engineer or... So when they're doing... Sorry, I have a little bit of a cold here. When they're doing that reserve study, they're looking at like the real roof, they're looking at the floor, they're looking at the foundation, the electrical systems, the plumbing, windows. All of those things are going to be considered in that reserve study. So just like the milestone report, the buyer is also entitled to the reserve study, and this has to happen before the sale of the property. So buyers, if you're going to buy the condo, you need to understand that you're entitled to both of those reports. You need to make sure you're getting a copy of them. All right, so even though that you're entitled to these reports, what's happening is a lot of the condos, they don't have the reports done. They're in the process. So you just kind of need to ask and find out where in the process they are. Well, what we think is going to happen is a lot of the condos are going to have to increase their maintenance fees and maybe even have some special assessments to cover these costs that the inspectors are finding during the studies and the inspections. So if you're buying a condo down here, be aware that you're entitled to these two reports, and just kind of understand where they are in the process, and make sure you feel like comfortable and confident, getting involved with that association. If you have any more questions about the condo rider or just condos in general here in the Keys, just give us a call. Ask us questions, put it in the comments. We'll get right back to you. And that's it. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great day. Bye.